going on, guys, and welcome back to another episode of the German Bear Podcast. And today we got a big film room episode on the newest signing of the Chicago Bears in the 2024 NFL free agency with tight end edition Gerald Everett. The Chicago Bears added on to their tight end room with signing veteran tight end Gerald Everett to a 2-year deal, stacking up the tight end room after Cole Kmet. And this was an addition that was highly needed in my opinion, and also in the opinion of a lot of other fans and analysts. And Ryan Poles, rightfully so, added a really good veteran option to the tight end room, which is going to be a great receiving threat for whoever's going to be under the helmet for 2024 for Chicago, but most likely Caleb Williams, and it's going to be a really good addition to this overall receiving room for Chicago. Now, to get the contract details out of the way right away, let's get right into that as well. He gets a 2-year deal worth $12 million and has the potential to go up to $14 million in those 2 years, $6.1 million or guaranteed of that contract. So basically, it's a 1-year deal that averages $6 million, and it could be added on to 2 years as well. And I think for me personally, that's a great addition overall for that price, because he is a veteran presence that adds much more to the Chicago Bears offense beyond his play on the field. But it's going to be really good as well, as we will see in today's film room episode. But yeah, overall, I mean, this gives the possibility for Shane Waldron to run 12 personnel formations here. The Bears needed a second tight end, perfect addition for a cheap money price here on the market, and he's a really good receiving threat, as I said, for a young quarterback and probably Caleb Williams. So with that being said, let's not waste any more time and actually look into how good Gerald Everett actually is and how he fits into the Chicago Bears offense. So starting off today's film room episode with talking about Gerald Everett's strengths, he's definitely a really good receiving threat. That's what he's known for. That's what he's made money with in the NFL, and that's what he's going to do for the Chicago Bears. He can do a lot of things with the football in his hands. Now, the first big ability that I want to talk about today is actually his ability to stretch the field. For a tight end, he has really good speed, and he can run away from coverage, which is a big ability that the Chicago Bears were lacking on offense. And even though Cole Kmet is a really good athlete, Gerald Everett adds a lot more speed to the tight end position, which is really great to have. First and foremost, he really has the burst to keep defenders away from him, and then also the strength at the point of release to keep them away as well and just play with a lot of leverage. One example I want to dig into a little bit deeper is a play-action play against the Las Vegas Raiders, where he really needs to sell a block on that play and runs a corner route on that play as well. So he really needs to do a good job here and needs to work to the sideline as well to get into the throwing window as quickly as possible for a easy completion for Justin Herbert in that case. And right here, does a perfect execution, fights off the defender, and then gets a good gain on this route, gets to the sideline quickly, and has a great completion here for the LA Chargers. And I think overall, he showed that ability a couple of times where you just see his burst. As soon as he catches the football, he can turn it really up the field. He can get to his spots quickly, and that's what you need to do if you want to be a good receiving tight end. And it's going to be a really premium addition to the Chicago Bears tight end room that will help a lot with those certain routes, and it's going to open up the playbook in that aspect as well. As for the second big ability that he really possesses, it's actually his route running. And to me, that was pretty surprising on tape, but he has a really good release package, plays with a lot of leverage and knows how to use it. Really strong at the release point. There were a couple of plays where he was pressed and just had the better hand usage and was fighting off the hands of the DB or the linebacker so quick that he already won the route at the release point. So against press, he does possess the ability to win quickly. Also, really good feed for a tight end, plays with leverage, as I said, and he really knows how to sell routes as well, as we'll see later on today in the film room. But one example specifically against the Houston Texans in a man-to-man situation against Jalen Petrie, who's obviously a really good safety in the NFL as well, and he runs a seam route against cover 3, so he really needs to stretch the field in between the play side cornerback and the safety, who's going to be back deep in a third as well. And right here against Petrie, beats the press coverage really quickly and then staying square and in his line and runs away from the coverage and has the speed as well to stay away from Jalen Petrie, which is really impressive, and then has really good hands, makes a great hands catch here for a touchdown for the LA Chargers. So that was a really good example here of his abilities as a route runner. As we want to move on, him as a red zone threat as well. Just once again, possesses the ability to route players up, really good precise route running here, and also the ability to sell play action fakes, which is obviously a very underrated ability as well from a tight end. And I think that's something that pops off of tape right away. There's the ability to really fake that you're getting into a run block and then just getting out there into the flats or something like this and running away from the coverage to get an easy touchdown. He did that a couple of times. And one example I really like personally against the Kansas City Chiefs is in a cover one robber situation. We're going to have another man-to-man situation against Gerald Everett against a defensive back, and he runs a dig route on this play. And what I really love from him here on this play is that he first and foremost sells it as a fade route and attacks outside the frame of the DB, which forces him to freeze for a second. And this is the point where Gerald Everett actually wins this route. Is a crazy good position here for a tight end right there by Gerald Everett, and then just runs away from the coverage, has a great break on the dig route, and is wide open for a touchdown. And this is an ability that we definitely need on offense. We had Robert Tonyan last year, and we didn't use him, and he was also not the same player that he was on the Packers. But I take a tight end who can stretch the field, route players up in the red zone, and get touchdowns for easy money all day long. So for me, that's a big aspect of this edition as well. Then another thing that really popped off of tape was his ability to play against zone coverage. Very smart player, Gerald Everett. He recognizes zone fast, and he knows when he needs to slow down in order to make an easy completion happening for his offense. He's a really good player for getting easy 5 to 10 yards on every single down, and it's going to be a safety blanket option for the Chicago Bears as a tight end too. So for me, that's a big addition as well for him right there, getting into zone coverage, knowing where to be, and finding green. And then lastly, one big thing also is going to be his blocking, and I think this is probably his biggest weakness, or at least he's not getting used in that way a lot. That's why we have Cole Kmet, who's developed into a really good blocker in my opinion, or into a really solid player at least when it comes to blocking. But for Gerald Everett, there's multiple situations that you can see on tape that he does have the ability to get out in front of a running back, to be an elite blocker, so I thought that was nice to see. And then there's also one or two examples here as well of him being a pass blocker, which is something the LA Chargers mostly avoided with him, but still there's a couple of clips where he actually did it and looked pretty solid, but it's nothing outstanding with him. But that's totally fine because there's so many multiple ways you can use him. And yeah, with that being said, let's actually switch over to the overall conclusion for today's video, because this is the question: how does he fit into the Chicago Bears offense? And Shane Waldron, first of all, knows him from his time with the LA Rams as well as his time with the Seattle Seahawks, so he knows the player inside out and how to use him first and foremost. But I mean, he can be used in 12 personnel situations as a guy that sells the run in and gets out into the flats or into a route. He can do that perfectly. And also just as a running threat that runs away from coverage, is an easy completion for the quarterback, and he will get some yards after the catch as well, because he's not a bad player with the ball in his hands. He can really break some tackles as well. And yeah, overall for me, it's just a perfect addition into the tight end room as tight end number 2. You can really use him in certain situations and make him a very effective veteran tight end in this room, which is a great addition for a rookie quarterback, which we're probably going to get in Caleb Williams. So for me, overall, great depth piece for the Chicago Bears for cheap. Ryan Poles, again, adds wisely in free agency, doesn't overspend, and really lets the draft speak for itself at the end of the day. So for me, Gerald Everett, really exciting pickup. I'm excited what the Chicago Bears going to do over the next couple of days. And yeah, with that being said, that's the end of this quick film room episode, guys. I hope you've enjoyed it. Definitely let me know in the comments down below what you think of the Chicago Bears signing Gerald Everett to a 2-year deal. Like and subscribe if you liked the video. Check out Instagram and Twitter if you want to as well. And as always, guys, bear down.